So welcome to this. I don't know which edition this is, Pete, of our
This is number 6.
number 6. Well remembered. So number 6. Now we're calling them Embodied Awakening Lives. And in the run up to our retreat together in Mont Mariposa on the 28th of March, running through to the 2nd of April, an Easter retreat with the same title, Embodied Awakening. Thank you, Pete Bampton, for inviting me to collaborate and to go on this journey of 6 stepping stones so far towards that retreat. Thank you, Emma and JP, for signing up to it, and thank you for attending tonight. Welcome back. Tonight we proposed a few weeks ago to invite Emma to come back, who's going to share a little bit of her experience of the topic of tonight, which is feeling and following. And I think that this simple phrase has a lot to do with embodiment, and we're going to explore some threads of that. And I'd love to hear from everyone present their take on what's shared or the term once we've explored a little bit. One practice that we could say fosters embodiment and increased awareness of our felt senses body poem. So as we have in some other of these sessions, I'm going to invite us to start with one of those. So I invite you to get as comfortable as you can with the body supported, particularly the back of the body. Then noticing your breath. And as we notice the breath, noticing the structure of the body, the bones, feeling for our skin surface, the border of the entire body, tracing that with your awareness, feeling the clothes wrapping the body. Feeling for the length of you from the tip of your head all the way down the spine into the pelvic bowl. And noticing the breath as you breathe, moving the soft tissue around the bones. Noticing the aliveness in the breath, in the body. And feeling for the aliveness in the pelvic bowl. Can you feel an expansion down between the legs on the inhalation? Might be subtle. And can you feel a gentle lift on the exhalation in the pelvic floor? Releasing the body to the in-breath and releasing the body to the out-breath. And feeling the legs rooting out of the pelvis down towards the ground, perhaps touching the ground, connected with the earth or the building, planted on the earth. And if it feels good for you, offering an inner smile to all these trillions of beautiful cells that make up our wholeness. And as we turn our awareness inward to our breath and sensation, we're waking up our interoception, down regulating our nervous system, and arriving together as one body of felt sense. And I invite us all to tune into some words that come close to describing what we're noticing as we open this call together, as we drop into the body, perhaps at least set an intention to bring awareness there. Words that come close to describing what you're noticing right now. And I invite you to share unmuted or type in the chat a few words that come close to describing what you're noticing right now. stillness. The sound that male cells sing.
Mouth like a warm cave.
Mouth like a warm cave. The wound of love. Stillness, the sound that male cells make. Mouth like a warm cave. The wound of love. Settling. Opening. Arriving. Stillness. Settling, the sound that male cells sing. Arriving, opening, stillness. The wound of love. Mouth like a warm cave. Words that come close to describing what you're noticing right now. And in this space of stillness, the sound that male cells sing, feeling the mouth like a warm cave, the wound of love, settling, opening, arriving, tuning into what you want to let go of in your life in this moment. Using words that come close to describing anything that you feel you would like to let go of, to release, to surrender. Things that we would like to let go of. Hypervigilism, over-responsibility, celibacy, confusion. Endurance in work, confusion, hypervigilism, over-responsibility, celibacy. Endurance in work. Now tuning into things we would like to welcome in, like more of, to start experiencing in our life. Pete, is that allowing the grief that never ends?
Yes, should be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deeper connection.
Deeper connection. Warm swims, massage, in-person clinics with community of practitioners, allowing the grief that never ends, allowing the joy that is internal, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, ease, joy, super joyous, love, intimacy, looking deep into his eyes, seeing, looking deep into his eyes, seeing ease, seeing joy, seeing super joyous love, intimacy, graceful aging, more love, connection, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, allowing the grief that never ends, allowing the joy that is eternal, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, looking deep into his eyes, seeing ease, seeing joy, super joyous love, intimacy, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, allowing the joy that is eternal, graceful aging, allowing the grief that never ends, warm swims, community of practitioners, massage, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, ease, joy, love, intimacy. Super joyous, looking deep into his eyes, seeing, graceful aging, more love, pleasure, touch. Touch, massage, warm swims, pleasure, in-person clinics with community of practitioners, allowing the grief that never ends, allowing the joy that is internal, eternal. Heart-centered connection, deeper connection, more love, pleasure, touch, sunlit simplicity, divine desire, pleasure, touch, massage, warm swims, ease, joy, love, intimacy, looking deep into his eyes, seeing, graceful aging, more love, pleasure, touch, sunlit simplicity, divine desire. Stillness, mouth like a warm cave. The sound that male cells sing, the wound of love, settling, opening, arriving, letting go of confusion, letting go of celibacy, letting go of hypervigilism and over-responsibility, letting go of endurance in the work, welcoming in community of practitioners around me, massage, pleasure, warm swims, touch, sunlit simplicity, divine desire, deeper connection, more love, graceful aging, ease, joy, super joyous, love, intimacy, looking deep into his eyes, seeing heart-centered connection, deeper connection, allowing the joy that is eternal, allowing the grief that never ends. Divine desire, sunlit simplicity, stillness, settling, opening, arriving, letting go of confusion, letting go of endurance in work, hypervigilism and over-responsibility, letting go of celibacy, welcoming in more massage, more touch, more pleasure, more divine desire. sunlit simplicity, pleasure, massage, community of practitioners, ease, joy, love, intimacy, super joyous, looking deep into his eyes, seeing, heart-centered connection, allowing the grief that never ends, allowing the joy that is eternal, graceful aging, more love, pleasure, touch, massage, sunlit simplicity, divine desire, stillness, settling, opening, arriving, more love, heart-centered connection, deeper connection, divine desire, settling, opening, arriving, stillness, letting go of confusion, allowing the joy that is eternal, allowing the grief that never ends, deeper connection, ease, joy, more love, intimacy, ease, graceful aging, pleasure, touch, sunlit simplicity, stillness. Few shares if we feel to on what that was like to hear everyone's words back in combination. How was that to hear our community body poem? Of how we are, what we want to let go of, and what we want to welcome in.
Beautiful.
Abundance.
Ease of being.
Beautiful abundance, ease of being, united, in flow. Well, I couldn't find the Hafiz book, but as you were chatting, I found two other books. Found Cathal Gibran's Prophet that was on offer, $1.99, and Barry Long, Making Love. Does anybody
Oh,
know?
that's an amazing book.
Yeah, you know that one. Does anybody
Very,
else know?
very
Know
much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I had the tape of this as well. It's
Yeah,
beautiful, isn't it?
I have enormous respect for him. I think he's one of the truly great Western spiritual teachers and also true tantric master, but the true, in the true, real, true sense of the word. And that book, yeah, that book really is very profound.
It is very beautiful. That's Barry Long. Yeah, so it'd be nice to visit those, but I didn't plan to visit those. I would have liked to, one of these calls, read from Hafiz's book. Peter, who was here last week, reads on the retreats that I've done. He read quite a lot from that book as a very beautiful way to punctuate different practices and connect to the archetype of the lover. So tonight we were tuning into feel and follow. So I would just like to set the scene briefly and then invite Emma to speak of her experience practicing that in psychotherapeutic and touch scenario. Right, Emma? And then I'd like to invite us into a short practice of trying a bit of feel and follow with ourselves tonight, some self-touch, some nourishing self-touch, and then open to discuss about these themes of embodiment and feeling and following. So how's that sound?
Sounds good.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. So yeah, next week I travel to the Algarve and teach with my friend Howard Evans a biodynamic craniosacral therapy training retreat at Pola Vida's place near Oliao. And in December, Emma came to a level 1 relational bodywork course in a similar area, close to Pola's place actually. And we were doing different practices for about 5 days with the public as well. And at various times it came up that Anel, Emma, or Zoe, or people were asking, so what are you doing now? Or what are we doing now? And we made a joke that, oh, I'm feeling and following. It's feel and follow. And then recently I was in, where was I? Belfast with Howard, and we were teaching bodywork again. And we had a running joke that what you need to do is tune in, feel, and then follow. So at the end of that training, I went online and bought feelandfollow.com. And I thought, no, this really has something to it. So a friend of mine, Philip Shepherd, who wrote Radical Wholeness, and there are other masterful beings that have said, you know, when our doing is infused with an intentional or a self-aware sense of being, as in like our doing, we're not human doings. I think that was Deepak Chopra said, we don't want to aspire to be human doings because that's a human korkor. We're human beings. So what's happened to our beingness? So in embodiment, I think one of the greatest gifts, if we tune in and increase our felt sense and our self-awareness of our embodied present intelligence, then that's bringing in more of this capacity to feel. And if we follow what we feel, and this is where I think there'll be some food for discussion in a few minutes, because there's many different aspects of feeling, isn't there? There's our emotional feeling. So I wouldn't say that we should feel and follow anger all the time, for example, and we discussed this on another call with respect to nonviolent communication. But feeling called into action, especially if it's in service, especially if we're, excuse me, in a container where we're holding space or we're a practitioner, and what we're feeling is within the context of having the best intentions of this person at our forefront of our priority, then our intuition as a human being, whether it's comforting a friend or in a craniosacral or tantric therapeutic or massage setting, I feel it's really useful to notice what we're feeling and have tools to do something with that rather than shut it down or ignore it. So a few ways that when I reflected on what I'd shared with Emma and Anel and the others that came to the clinic and module, I thought some of the useful things that help to understand this principle are that, firstly, in the body, if we take the body into ease, you know, muscles contract and they work through actin and myosin contraction. And if we challenge a muscle, it doesn't actually lengthen. It will fight to contract against that challenge. So if we're working with the body and we're following ease, so if you could take your own wrist or shoulder joint and just compress and roll. It's common sense, but you know, if we roll this way, it's probably easier than trying to open the shoulder that way, because most of us spend our day doing things in front of the body and our shoulders are made to do that. So we're going to find more ease this way. We can also take the elbow and close the body like that and just take the body into some ease. So when we're doing massage or any kind of body work with a friend or our partner or a client, if we're a massage therapist, one way to support the body is to feel for the ease with a limb or any piece of tissue. You know, my scarf, it's not alive like the body is, but I can start to arrive on this tissue and feel, oh, which way is more easeful for the body to go, and follow that and support it. And in cranial biodynamics, when we put the body, our fingers on the body, and I invite you to do this also, we're feeling for the fluidity in the tissues. So it's as if they are wine corks floating on the surface of water. So we can do this on our tissue. When you're practiced with it, you can even do it through clothes. So we're feeling through the skin layer to the buoyancy just beneath the skin, and it's easier on a fleshier part. The forearm is fleshier than the outside of the body. So I invite you to rest one arm and then go into the soft tissue of the forearm and feel for the fluidity, the buoyancy, and connect there. And we've obviously got the biofeedback because this is our body. And then I just invite you to explore if you were to rotate that tissue out or back in, or to twist one way or to twist the other way like a clock face. And in this way, we're just feeling and following the ease in the tissues, like the grain in wood. So our fascia makes shapes, of course, all through the body. And some of them are more easeful to follow and more challenging to go against. So in terms of feeling and following with the body, I think that's one of the principles, basic principles to understand. And Peter, who was here last week, gave a demo of a tantra massage. And I mentioned this last week. The woman was clothed. She was face down because she had her menstruation and she had tummy cramps. And he did this very gentle feeling and following body work with her. And I saw that in 2017. And then coming back to the biodynamic craniosacral therapy, when we put our hands onto a client, some people hear sounds. We all have different sensitivities. For me, I feel shapes. And a lot of people feel shapes when they put the hands on the body. They feel that the body's showing them something. So I'd like to hear from Emma in a second what she feels when she touches the body. And then feeling and following also for me corresponds to what we've just done in Body Poem. So we feel down into the body. What am I noticing here? In this body-mind continuum, it's not that there's a separation between thinking and feeling, but when I allow my feeling to reach up and touch and express into my thinking and my languaging, then we're feeling and following that, trusting that, communicating that. So that's another way of feel and follow. So between feeling called into action in life, feeling called forth to do something and following that, whether it's feeling and following our own body or our client's body, when it's aligned to an embodied sense of felt relationship, then we have a connection that's felt relationship rather than known relationship, which is, oh, it would be good to go for a walk today. I know it would be good for me, but we never go for the walk. Whereas if in the day we feel, oh, I really want to go for a walk, and we follow that, that's in the moment, and then we go on the walk. So those are three examples of feel and follow. But I've been now reflecting on it since December, and I plan to make a whole website about it because it's proven, it's something that I've been doing a lot and see that others do, and it's just a simple series of words. But I'd love now, Emma, you said a few weeks ago you've seen application of it in the psychotherapeutic work that you've been doing, and I thought it's a place we could start tonight and then go into some feel, follow, touch with ourselves, and then open to discussion. So thank you, Emma, for that a few weeks ago, and over to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, let's see. So this is a concept that has really, since December particularly, but it's really been kind of landing in different aspects of my life. So I wanted to comment on it because particularly recently, like you mentioned, I'm trained in bodywork. I'm also trained in psychotherapy. And I've been shadowing an osteopath in a clinic. And to see this in action and the level of presence that enables, there's something really powerful about it. And so I've been sort of playing around with it in my own practice with therapy clients. And it's like this sense of, okay, what are the next, so in my psychotherapy practice, there's no touch involved in this practice. And when I tune in and it's like, okay, what are the next words that involve the least amount of effort? And that's this, and it aligns to this sense of feel and follow. It's like that there becomes this sort of effortless flow of words. The exchange becomes increasingly effortless. And yeah, I think the reason why I'm finding this so powerful is because, like you mentioned, it's taking away this sense of therapist or body worker or whatever role you are in. It's taking away from that as you as doer and someone who's doing the thing to simply being. And there's a freedom and a liberation in that I think not only as practitioners but as beings, that is so freeing to move from that place. So yeah, I don't know if I've explained that very well, but it's hard to kind of articulate what I mean. But yeah, just sort of exploring that in practice and the embodied sense of how that feels when you're in relationally working in that way has been really powerful for me. So yeah, looking forward to diving into it more next week in the craniosacral training. And yeah.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, it was clear to me. Yeah. Using the least amount of effort. Martin, have you done the Wheel of Consent? You've done like a pro, I'm sure, Martin.
Well, I know the Wheel of Consent stuff. Yeah.
Because in that, when I studied that, Emma, I then collaborated with different facilitators as we were going for certification, going towards certification. And I collaborated with a German young lady, and we facilitated, Sonia was her name, and we facilitated a workshop in Lisbon. And I noticed they used the minimum amount of words, and Betty would back this up and advise that we use the minimum amount of words necessary to facilitate the best conditions for a certain experience to land. And I found their facilitation just exquisitely beautiful because it was just enough.
Right.
And never more. So what you were saying, tuning into the next words you're going to use in a psychotherapeutic sense, how can we say the least number of words and give the most presence and opportunity for them to trust their innate intelligence? That makes a lot of sense with what we're doing in Body Poem, doesn't it? And body work.
Yeah. And like you said, it's so much more empowering ultimately for the client to be in that kind of dynamic. And I suppose it's very obvious to me at this point because I'm very early on in this field of work, and So I think quite naturally there's this sense of like needing to do and needing to say the right things to, you know, whatever. So having that contrast is quite interesting to compare, I suppose.
I feel that's, yeah, for me, that's exciting because I practiced for about 17 years without having these more recent skills that I've picked up, and felt like that newbie must say the right thing, must do the right thing. And the pressure, you talked about freedom and liberation, it's so freeing. And that's what I felt as I gained these kind of tools, that I no longer had to be the expert. And what we're doing, if we're trying to fix people and come with this expert mentality, we're kind of going towards them with our tools and trying to do something to help them. And there's a sincere, often a sincere and a sincerity of trying to help, but we're bringing our cleverness. Whereas if we, like you say, choose less words and less approaches, less technique when it comes to bodywork, and they're owning the journey towards the wellness or whatever the embodied goal is for them. So I observe that my clients savor the steps of that process rather than some quick fix, which is often what many of us are socialized into wanting to seek. And obviously when we're suffering, we want quick solutions. But
Right, and this is probably something else to mention on this topic is like culturally, we are quite conditioned into this approach of like fixer and person being fixed, and the dynamic is such that, yeah, when someone comes and sees you as a practitioner, they're expecting that dynamic to be in a certain way. So I think part of adopting this feel and follow approach is navigating how you let a lot of those projections of you as the expert sort of just wash over you, and not latching onto them and responding to them, but acknowledging, okay, perhaps that's natural that that person is going to feel that's the dynamic, but then re-entering with that kind of client-led approach.
yeah, that touches for me on the felt sense of safety. So, and we're talking about therapeutic context here, but this could be a friendship, you know. I can see if those that are listening at home think, well, I'm not a practitioner. Well, these dynamics are at play in intimate relationships, friendships, family relationships. If you sit down to be a practitioner for a while with someone in a paid session, or if you sit down with someone and you're trying out this feel and follow approach, if you really trust in that presence and the intelligence of two beings, giving space to and receptivity to what's alive and what matters, what I've noticed is, as I started to do that, I didn't have people say, I do have some people say, I'm in your hands, you're the expert, let's do what you think, but without, you know, trying to correct that, because as you say, we've been socialized into thinking that practitioners will take the lead, and often they do. And on my trainings, people say, oh, I've never been asked by a massage therapist, do you want me to go? I mean, some people say deeper or softer or whatever, but people very rarely express anything about what they're receiving in terms of therapeutic touch, quite often. And I mean, physio is the same, like this is what we need to do to make this tendon well again. So when we give importance to what we're noticing and sharing that, I've found that my clients feel very safe. So it's quite interesting because we think they might feel safer if we take the lead, but actually being seen, witnessed, and trusting their intelligence, I've found I haven't had challenges with people saying, well, aren't you supposed to know? I used to do, which is what kept me in that kind of expert model. I'd be like, I'd revert to, okay, well, we can do this myofascial release and we could release this way. But it's exciting for me to see that you feel you're more at the beginning of these practitioner journey, and you're embracing this, because I feel for our nervous system, for our own energetic emotional hygiene. If we're not the doer, if we're not the therapist, and we're not the fixer, I notice I've supported quite some strong trauma in the past 6 months with people, but I don't come home carrying it and feeling responsible for fixing it. I'm working with the wellness, which is what Howard describes on the course of biodynamic approach, is one of working with the wellness, the blueprint of wellness that we're born with, and that no matter how sick or adapted our system becomes, there's always the memory of wellness, and we're supporting that to resource and reorganize in our presence. So that translates in other approaches, can be psychotherapeutic, can be body poem, can be tantra work. Yeah, so are there any other things you wanted to share on that, Emma, or reflections, or others in the group?
No, I think the final thing I'd say on it is, don't know, that it's not really an appropriate phrase, but like, teach a man to fish. It's not quite right, but you know, that sense of like, if someone is always expecting when a problem comes up, mental, physical, to go to a professional, yeah, they're always looking outside of themselves for the answers, which is totally understandable, but to support that person to realize that they are responsible for their own healing and wellness, and of course there's support, but to actually give them the embodied sense that they are doing that for themselves is, in the long term, far more sustainable. And it's not quite the right word, but it's far more beneficial for them in the long term, it feels. Yeah, and more freeing for the whether practitioner or friend or lover or whoever is that person. So yeah, I think that's all though.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, Katie, from the founder of Body Poem, said she has some beautiful strap lines that go with Body Poem. One is the more I can be, no, the more you can be you, the more I can be me, or the more I can be me, the more you can be you. But the more we can take responsibility and find internal resources and solutions to our physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, the more that ripples out and inspires others. And it's not to do with independence. We are interdependent beings. So sometimes you might need, like I was downstairs and I have an ache in my shoulder, and I thought, my partner said you should get that looked at. I was like, well, I'm going on a craniosacral retreat next week. It'll be fine. So sometimes it's good to have some input from others, but the more that we trust our inner resource, the more we can inspire. You know, the more you can be you in your resourced Emma-ness, the more I can mirror that and be inspired to be the resourced human being that I would like to be. So I really feel it's a powerful awakening to empowerment in a non like happy clappy, oh yes, we're all healed, we're all fantastic. It's a more subtle and step-by-step movement towards what we want to create, which the I Want Body Poem is one way to tune into that. And then those wants that we have, or those things that we want to release or welcome in, we can actually feel that and make changes in our life, feel and follow, and start to create more consciously from our felt sense than to-do lists, which might come from the mind. And we, you know, if I just have to-do lists and I fill my week with those, I might feel a sense of endurance in my work, which was one of my things I want to release. Whereas if I do, I Want Body Poems and combine things I want to release and welcome in, I find my life is way richer. And I've used I Want Body poems for quite a few years now and found it very powerful. So, are we ready for a little touch practice, or would anybody else like to share who's present? Martin or Adrienne or JP or Pete?
I'll just say what struck me about what you've shared, and this phrase "feel and follow" is it's because what I felt when you were speaking, Emery, is really what it meant. You know, you were leaning into what it meant to be a therapist, you know, without having that role, you know, without any sense of identity. So just kind of letting yourself be out of the picture, so to speak, and trusting your intuitive intelligence, and also inviting the client or the friend, or, you know, as you say, this dynamic can play out in all relationships, into a space where well, as you were saying, you know, that phrase from the founder of Body Poem, you can be more you, I can be more me. And yes, we can just be more authentically as ourselves, but the more we allow ourselves to simply be ourselves without any expectation or identity, the more we drop into this deeper ground and intelligence, which is both of us. You know, that is who we are as individuals, and also transcends it. And that's really when the magic happens, that we're not the doer of it. And yet we're a vehicle. So yeah, it's a simple phrase, but a beautiful way in to a process of healing and wholeness. Also, it's kind of open-ended, like, we'll feel, follow, and then see what happens. See what the results are. And if the results, does it hit the bullseye? Does it miss? Oh, maybe I need to feel a bit deeper. You know, or maybe that wasn't such a trustable feeling. So it's also a process of learning in there.
And the attempt to, Marshall Rosenberg in Nonviolent Communication said, you know, our attempt to empathically connect is a strong gesture. If I assume, oh, Pete, you're just angry, it's not helpful. But if I say, Pete, what, do you feel like sharing what's going on for you? I might not know. So I feel something's challenging you right now. And if I attempt to connect with that, however I language that, if you feel that intent that how you're feeling right now matters to me, I've felt something, I've followed it, I've inquired, then you probably feel cared for. Trusting the intelligence of feeling and following, like you said, and then see what happens. It might happen that you then clarify what's going on for you. And then it's many little cycles of feeling and following. Yeah. And Katie pointed out that Daniel Siegel, the affective neuroscientist, talks about you, me, and then we. So it's like the merging of the seemingly separate into the communion or the oneness of presence. We. Yeah. Martin, you as well as a Tantra practitioner, you have a background in psychotherapeutics as well, don't you?
I've been a psychotherapist for 35 years.
Thought so, yeah.
Body psychotherapy. I mean, I suppose I'm a bit puzzled, because what you're talking about seems to be the basis of most psychotherapy. So I'm sort of thinking, well, okay, yeah, this all makes perfect sense, but it's what was there in Carl Rogers and client-centered, as it became called, or person-centered psychotherapy. It's there in good psychoanalytic psychotherapy, the same process, where the analyst is without memory or desire and is has this what Freud call the rule of abstinence, which is basically they say very little, leaving the space for the client. So, and it's there in many therapists, Hakomi, body therapists as well, Hakomi, many others. So I can totally recognize what you're saying, but what I can't get at is, okay, so what's different from all the therapies that I mean, everything except sort of, cognitive behavior therapy, or, some of the stuff that comes into fashion, which is about fixing people. If we exclude those, most therapies, the good psychoanalytic and the humanistic therapies, are on the same lines, really.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's a new concept, Martin, at
Right.
all.
Good.
No, not at all. No, I think it's for sure. It's
You
there.
have to keep on re-putting it into new words and reshaping it for now. And I mean, the big change in psychotherapy in the last 30 years is neuroscience, which, when I was training as a therapist, kind of didn't exist, really. No, I mean, not in the modern form with scanning and, deeper understanding of the brain and the nervous system, the vagus nerve, polyvagal theory, and all of this stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I trained in person-centered practice as a body worker in 2001. But I guess my interpretation, my modality was touch and body work, although we were taught some of those, dynamics of clinical practice we did for a year, and a year of something else, and transactional analysis and different things. But what I'm seeing a lot of is in the people that come to my workshops is, and for a long time, people wanting more techniques. And Howard on the training says, well, if techniques alone don't help anybody, first we need to feel which technique are we using and why. Yeah, I must say my family, Martin, were a lot of my mum was a Jungian analyst and a child psychotherapist. My godmother. I've had a lot of family members that were celebrated psychotherapists.
Oh, no wonder you're so crazy. No.
No, but my personal experience of non-family members supporting me, there wasn't any. I'm not, that was my unlucky experience. But when a bereavement counselor that I had, and then psychotherapeutic support offered to me at different stages in my life, another bereavement in my 20s, I found that people were kind of dancing around my fear or my challenges rather than giving me. So obviously that's just my personal experience, but it very much put me off. I didn't witness much presence, but there's thousands of millions of practitioners, and of course Rogerian counseling, and I'm sure, Martin, you've had great supervisors and great trainers, and you're great space holder yourself. Well, in this person-centered approach, what would you say brings how are good practitioners trained to be anchored in presence in the person-centered way, like we've said tonight, or Pete said, or have you got something else you could share about that receptivity to what's going on in a person-centered way with this person that we're with?
Well, I mean, one method is what Gendlin called focusing, just trying to find the felt sense. I mean, he developed that in the, I think, late 1950s, trying to find what he called the felt sense. Which, effectively is a bit like body poem. I mean, body poem's got this wonderful sort of retelling of it in a very wonderful hypnotic way. But, finding the felt sense and not rushing to put a label on it too quickly. So that's been around a long time, and that was found to be the one thing that made the difference in successful therapy than others, really. Whether the client could actually go and find a felt sense of what was going on in an embodied way, and then gradually bring it into words or communication. So that's one aspect, really. Something else I was going to say on technique. I know I'm just switching subjects, but you know, we can be against technique, but in some sense, technique is a bit like if you've broken your leg, you might want to be on crutches for a while or have your leg in plaster. Not a good way to go through life, but it might be necessary.
Oh
Or
yeah.
if you want an analogy from teaching meditation, I mean, the non-dual tradition in meditation is the instruction is just sit and allow everything to be exactly as it is. That's the entire meditation instruction. Sit and allow everything to be entirely as it is. But sometimes it's quite useful to get clients sit, and if your mind is wandering a lot, just follow your breath. You're giving them a technique until they don't need the technique.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
like you have your leg in plaster until you don't need it in plaster. So I
Yeah.
think technique it's very double-edged thing, but I don't think it's bad.
No, nor me, not at all.
But
But sometimes striving to collect more and more techniques in the
oh yeah,
absence, you know, the very simple approaches work very well as well, is what I'm trying to demonstrate tonight, I guess. You know, if we perpetually as practitioners particularly feel inadequate and need to collect more and more certificates and techniques,
Hmm.
this for me doesn't seem conducive to the individual having a trust in the presence of their therapeutic field, you know.
Hmm.
That's not a judgment, that's just an
Hmm.
observation of students that have come to me saying, oh, can I tick this off and tick this off and tick this off if I
Yeah.
do this course? So yeah.
It's like we collect lots of apps on our phone, you know,
No.
6 screens of apps, most of which we don't use.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've also got a very short attention span these days. It's getting shorter. So we want a technique and then we try it a couple of times and we want another one, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an addictive thing.
And I'm just following this thread a little bit with you, Martin. In the world of Tantra, with practices for self-awareness, is there anything there that you feel has supported you or others in turning this kind of introspective tuning into what's alive in me right now?
I mean, there's no special tantric technique. I mean, tantra, you know, my 6th definition of the tantric method is bringing awareness to aliveness to realize oneness. So what's alive, the question, what's alive in you, is inviting you to bring together Shiva and Shakti, awareness and aliveness. You know, so, you know, you could say what's alive in you now is that is the tantric instruction, bringing your awareness to your aliveness.
Lovely.
Oh, I
So
love the simplicity of that.
Yeah.
I think I invented that as a 6-word definition of tantric, the method of tantra. Copyright.
Trademark. Fantastic.
Trademark it, but yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of things. You can follow your breath as a sort of, you know, you all know all of these. There's nothing kind of magically tantric. People who are visual can use visualization sometimes, but, you know, that can be another kind of trap, if you like. End up with a sort of great show of images, which are not necessarily embodied.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to speak into this because I feel something I've been reflecting on lately. I was talking with Julian about this. When I've been posting our retreat on all these Facebook groups. So, for example, I posted one retreat at lunchtime and then another one in the evening, and then I'm amazed at how many other things have been posted in a matter of hours, and then all of the sort of smorgasbord of, you know, techniques and mantras and tantras and yantras, and you can do this and that, and you've got your plant medicine, and just how in our time, you know, and also the internet is like,
Yeah.
you have access to all the spiritual wisdom, and a lot of this wisdom, of course, was very esoteric in its traditional context. You know, you'd have to hack your way through the forest or climb up the mountain to get to the monastery, and then the guy would hit you over the head with a stick, you know, and say, come back later. And, you know, then he might let you in, and then he'd say, okay, well, you know, you're going to work in the kitchen for 3 years. you know, and then after that, you might get some instruction. So just how, you know, we live in this consumer society,
Yeah.
and everybody is looking for sort of instant this, you know, instant enlightenment, or what to be fixed, as we were alluding to earlier. And yeah, I just find myself more and more. I mean, I appreciated what you brought in about meditation, Martin, because that practice, that simple, radically simple practice of letting everything be as it is, has been the single most factor in my own transformation, way and above everything else. And I, you know, I used to teach meditation retreats a lot. I might do some more in the future. And sometimes when people had asked me, like, well, what do you do? People I would just meet, you know, what do you do for a living? I'd say, I teach people to do nothing. But it's actually through, it's been my experience, you know, through my own commitment to meditation for about 4 decades now, and also doing many retreats myself and leading people in retreats, is that, so not for everyone, you know, because we all have our different karmic predicament. We've all got something different on our plate to deal with. But so much healing, so much feel and follow, you know, can occur when we actually take some time to step out of this, like, frenetic, you know, being a human doing, you know, and all of this, as you say, all of the apps on the phone and all the there's something about letting go of seeking, letting go of, you know, trying to find an answer or a technique that's going to release this or that. And this is not to say that these things don't have their place, but I think that's what at least that's what I felt you were bringing at the beginning, is it's if people are coming into a space, a therapeutic space, or with some kind of teacher or mentor of some kind, and they're coming in seeking a solution, or to be healed or helped, or it's to approach them in some way where, as we're saying, client-centered psychotherapy, where it's like you're undermining that seeking impulse in the presumed wounded self. See what I mean? And through undermining that, you know, in a very, you know, gentle way, unless you're a Zen master and you might hit them over the head with a stick, it actually invites whatever liberation or healing or discovery of our naturalness wants to occur, in such a way that, you know, it allows a process to occur that isn't really about anyone doing anything, you know, as an ego, let's say.
Yeah.
And I just think it's quite something because techniques and disciplines all have their place, but the image that always comes to me is when we're learning to ride a bicycle as children, and we've got the training wheels on, and that moment when you take the training wheels off, and then of course it starts to wobble, you know, or you might fall over, and you know, so often people just want to grab hold of the technique again, or, you know, because, well, like, this has served me for so long, or this feels I'm going to be on track, I'm more secure. And so knowing when I think, as a therapist or a spiritual teacher or whatever, a mentor, however you want to describe it, when to actually encourage people to let go of the technique or the discipline or practice that may have served. Because otherwise we just end up getting attached to it.
Yeah. I lived with a guy, Pete, in my 20s, who identified as a tantric swami. I won't mention their name. Anyway, but one thing I took away from that was they once said to me, careful what you're excluding by believing what you believe. That's similar to the attachment to a crutch or a technique. If we can transcend it and no longer need it, then we're not bound by it.
Mm.
So yeah, thanks for your reflections. I guess going back to the original sharing of this notion tonight of feel and follow, I feel it's words to the sentiment that my friend had with regards to his whole beautiful book he wrote about this primary wound of our culture between thinking and being. And we're perhaps, I mean, Martin, sometimes I reflect when I hear you speak that you've had for some an unusual path of practice, and many of us are overthinkers, and to for a while tune into how we are feeling can be quite new for a lot of people who are got to get stuff done, got to do the career, got to earn money. And for the people
Especially
like
for men.
yeah, and yeah, and you know, feeling a bit more and following what they're noticing can be good medicine for a lot of people. And then as a practitioner, where you're really often newer and younger practitioners are really sincerely trying to help, and I guess this invitation to feel more and follow, because if we didn't, I was thinking about, and it's not to criticize thinking. I think we are probably all pretty good at it by now. So if we trust that the thinking is there, we hope and trust in our faculties, but feeling and knowing that the thinking is very well developed in our culture in most of us. But if we can't follow something, I was just thinking, what would be the opposite? Think and sink, but that sounds like I'm criticizing thinking. But feeling and following, for me, it's like, if it was a shape, it's like sink in, notice, feel, and follow that. Whereas if I'm following what I'm thinking without the feeling component, then action is that, for me, that's like the human doing without, you know, why not use the whole of our intelligence? And thinking is a type of feeling. When ideas pop up, like in Body Poem, into the mind, did we think that, or did we receive that, or where did that come from? Who knows? So I just wanted to reflect that back, and then say, in a very specific body work term, some people say that they do holistic or intuitive massage, but I want to point at the specificity of cranial touch. And as maybe I've not experienced, Martin, your touch, but Peter's tantric touch is very notice, feel, and follow. And the client's feedback from that kind of thing is like, oh, your hands were where I wanted them to be and seemed to land there before I knew I wanted them there. And it's like the time and space kind of falls into a beautiful, trusting, meditative dance. So I'm wanting to also celebrate that kind of touch, which is more than just doing what you feel. It's feeling the other person, actually giving enough space and time for their vitality to express itself, and you're feeling and following what their body's telling you to do, not necessarily overriding that with what you feel to do to them. So those are the most important two aspects of what I wanted to share tonight, and by no means say that I've discovered something new, Martin, but that it's important, and that in some context I think it would really lend a lot to those two types of things.
I mean, there's a sort of resonance between the two, between the client and the therapist or whatever. It's this resonant field that you're kind of responding to.
Yeah. And I feel with the relational bodywork that I've called what I teach, there's more potential available when we open up that discussion, and when we, not to go into lots of talking and language, but just that when we really want feedback, whether that's verbal or whether that's that we notice if I'm noticing an expression of intelligence that's telling me the body's inviting me to take it this way. And I follow that, and I say to the person, how does this feel when I follow this impulse this way? They say, oh, it feels amazing. You know, when we trust that and we get feedback and we practice with it, there's something there which doesn't get addressed many times when we do a sequence to someone. So we're just giving value to that a little bit. Yeah. Would we like a little sample of doing this with ourselves? We've got 15 minutes left. We could do about 10 minutes and then close with 5 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, I invite you to enter the kind of beginner's mind. We're not a practitioner or a client. We're just going to bring some curiosity and radical acceptance to what we notice or don't notice. And if you're watching the recording, you fancy to try this, you're welcome to join in. So again, I just invite people to get comfortable, as we did for the body poem. And I invite you to get your back supported, get as comfortable as possible. And as Martin mentioned, and the first part of body poem is from Gendley's work on body focusing. So just noticing, you could scan through your body, bring your awareness to the head, and slowly scanning down through the head, the soft tissues, the eyes, the mouth, the throat, surface of the skin to the depths of our body, noticing what's alive or is catching your attention as you slowly go down the body through the throat, the chest, rib cage, the breath, into the lungs, the chest. Maybe at the same time sweeping down the arms and the torso together, down to the belly button, and the wrists and the hands, down to the low belly, lower back, pelvic bowl, noticing any pleasant sensations, any aches or pains, any sense of freedom or tension. Might be noticing these things or might be noticing other things. And sweeping the awareness down the legs, the thighs, the backs of the thighs, the knees, the lower leg, calf, shin, ankles, feet and toes. I invite you to feel into where feels most resourced, most comfortable, most like home, or a place that's okay. I invite you to take a hand to this place. So this might be a place where you feel warmth or a sense of resource or strength, or just that it feels, if you're in a lot of pain, the place that's in the least amount of pain or the most okay today in this moment. And then invite you again to sweep through your body or remember that journey you've just been on, and feeling for a place that you feel could do with some love, some attention, some presence, some connection today, and inviting you to take your second hand to this place in your body. Now inviting you to feel the breath, depending on where your hands are. Some people can feel the breath through a lot of their body, so it might be quite subtle, but inviting you to now tune into the movement that breath facilitates as one hand rests on a place of resource and one hand rests on a place that feels to have some attention, some presence, some love. Could say healing, nurturance, nourishment. And there's a few things that we can feel and follow here. We can imagine through the loop of our arms, with our heart between, that we're sending love from one to the other, an area of fullness to an area of less fullness. And we can see if that corresponds to any shift in our perception of the relationship between these two places in our body, just by inviting a flow from the area of resource to the area asking for resource in this moment. So if we feel we're in a place to be resourced, to be connecting this resource or love from one area to another, we can intend to share that resource from one place to another in the body. And our body is through and through with fascia, connective tissue, which communicates faster than the nervous system and connects our most outer layer to our most core and DNA cellular level. And then I invite you to get curious with the hand that's on the area of resource for aliveness and the amount of pressure that you have in this place in the body. So I invite you to, if your pressure is quite strong, to soften to this fluid tissue layer that we demoed about half an hour or so more ago. So just bringing your awareness with both hands to the fluid layer, this area of sensitivity like buoyant fluid juiciness. So often this is a softer touch, but we are touching and we're sinking beneath the skin. And noticing how this changes the quality of touch. And again, if it feels useful or something you want to try, connecting the area of resource and imagine that there's a flow from the area of resource to the area asking for touch today. And as we engage this kind of biodynamic aliveness feel with the hands, I invite you to get curious with so in shiatsu, the still hand is like the mother hand. So if we imagine the hand that's on the resource is the mother sharing her love. And the hand that's going to see what's going on with the area that's asking for resource, we can imagine is the child. And the child hand's curious what might support or feel good for this area asking for resource. So I invite you to explore with an invitation, how does it feel to go this way? How does it feel slowly to go the other way? Or do you already feel some kind of organization, some kind of pull or invitation that your hand is receiving to do something? Might be to sink in more, to go more lightly. And obviously we're working our own body, so exploring what feels good for you with this part of your body in terms of gentle or fluid movements usually. And following, if you feel to do a movement with the tissue, with the skin, following that until you feel there's a limit or it slows down and we've got somewhere. And then feeling how long feels natural to stay there until perhaps something shifts, or feel as a sense of enoughness. And then perhaps relaxing that grip, allowing the body to just return naturally, or following what you feel to do next. Sometimes it's to go right back into the opposite of that pattern and see how that feels. You might feel to close the body over the touched crowd and create even more ease or relaxation around your hand. So your whole body can move with this. When you follow a pattern, reach a sense of enoughness, feeling what comes next. Is it to open back up if you've been closed? Is it to go the other way if you've been one way? Just inviting your child hand in the area that's asking for some resource to dance and notice, feel and follow what's going on there. What's going on there and what would feel good right now. And slowly bringing that movement to a close, reconnecting with the hand on the resource area and the area we were sending some resource to. I often like to connect with the inner smile and some gratitude for the resource that was available, to my body's intelligence to be able to respond and dance with these intentions and show what's useful right now. And slowly coming back to the screen and the room. And as we come into closing, I invite a few words of what that was like to engage in that own self-touch inquiry with this principle of feel and follow. You can do it as a popcorn share or a community body poem, or both at the same time. How are people feeling as they come out of that? Words that come close to describing what you're feeling right now. You feel to type or to share, to stay silent.
Deep relaxation.
Sighing.
Sighing.
Yes, sighing.
Relaxed warmth.
Warm, relaxed warmth. Sighing, deep relaxation.
The wonder of embodiment.
The wonder of embodiment. More resourced, a redistribution of energy. Sighing, deep relaxation, relaxed warmth, warm, the wonder of embodiment. Celebration of the divine feminine, intuition of feeling, the divine masculine, penetrative intention, intention of follow. Thanks, JP.
Intention and surrender.
Intention and surrender. Celebration of the divine feminine, intuition of feeling, and the divine masculine, penetrative intention of follow. Intention and surrender, more relaxed, more resourced, a redistribution of energy, sighing, deep relaxation, a relaxed warmth, warm, the wonder of embodiment, intention and surrender, deep relaxation, relaxed warmth, sighing, warmth and redistribution of energy, more resourced, celebration of the divine feminine, intuition of feeling, and the divine masculine, penetrative intention of follow. Intention and surrender, the wonder of embodiment, more resourced, the wonder of embodiment, redistribution of energy, deep relaxation, sighing, relaxed warmth, the wonder of embodiment. Thank you, everyone. Any closing comments or questions or anything to share, Pete, or anyone else?
No, it feels very complete.
Mm.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We have a couple more weeks, don't we? And then the retreat, and then we'll look to offer these in a similar way after the retreat somehow, when we're back in April.
May I just say, I very much enjoy these conversations and just being here. Yeah, I just want to say that it's kind of nice to have an opportunity to have what feels like a real conversation. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's certainly in the context of all we spoke earlier. You spoke about the distraction, the spiritual distraction. Yeah, so thank you, very much appreciated.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, not at all. I feel like getting to know you guys. Hopefully I'll meet you someday. I've met Pete, but that's the only person I know here.
Yeah, I'm just really glad we met.
Yeah, me too, Pete. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Great.
Thank you for
Obviously
coming,
wasn't.
Adrian.
That was some kind of synchronicity there.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Martin, for returning.
Mm.
Good to see you
Oh,
again.
thank you. Yeah, it's lovely to connect with these sort of topics.
Yeah, I would enjoy your input as well, Martin. But I'd like to get to know you better.
Well, we're in Portugal.
Yeah.
Same country anyway. Yeah.
Let's all go to that men's group sometime. Maybe in April we could go, Pete.
Yeah.
And Emma, JP, thank you so much for coming and sharing, Emma, your
Thank you.
experience.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that I also was by no means suggesting this was a new idea. I just, felt inspired to share how it was landing newly for me as a new practitioner. But yeah, in response to Martin, I understand that this is not revelationary for many, and I'm sure not for you after many years of practice, but yeah.
Yeah, I meant to say, Martin, sometimes because I often feel Martin's not fazed by things and has got so much practice experience. And it's great to have you here. It's great to have your perspective. And yet for others, things do seem very new. And sometimes languaging them more simply can help people new to concepts. So, but it's great to have your experience here, and also to give respect to all the great traditions and therapies that use this kind of principle, for me, it's great to hear that, and it adds to why it works and why it's so important. And so thank you so much. Yeah.
Mm.
I
Great.
really like how you put it. The feeling, it's the same of feeling this complete. And
Yeah.
without I wrote, I really think the name is amazing. Feeling and follow. It encompasses the divine feminine, the divine masculine. Both are present. Really beautiful.
Yeah.
Been a beautiful evening with you all, and hope some of you can make next week and the week after perhaps. But whenever you feel to join, we'll just be not doing it for the 28th to the 2nd of April. So we'll be back after that.
Yeah.
Great.
Lovely. Great. Thanks,
Bye
everyone.
bye. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye bye.